other gardener on your street has already given up. The seed packets are on clearance, the soil amendments are being put away, and the general assumption is that the growing season is finished. I plant in August. I have been planting in August for over 30 years in this country, and what I plant in August feeds my household until May of the following year. Not from a freezer, not from a jar, sitting on a shelf in a cool room, the way my father stored things in Nagano, the way his father did before him. You have probably looked at your garden in late summer and felt that it was too late, that the window had closed, that the only sensible thing left to do was pull the dying vines and wait for spring. That feeling was put there by bad information, and today I am going to replace it with one method, one crop, and one afternoon of work. What is the crop? Why does August, specifically August, matter? What is the one physical test that determines whether what you grew will feed you for 6 months or rot in 3 weeks? Those answers are coming. Stay with me. Now, the August timing, and there is a real irony here. The reason most Western gardeners never plant in late summer is that they are counting forward. They see August and they think, not enough time. Frost is coming. Nothing will mature. But the Japanese way of thinking about the garden counts backward from the frost, not forward from the seed. My father, Hiroshi, in Nagano, used to walk his rows in late July with a folded paper in his shirt pocket. On that paper was the expected first frost date for our region, and working backward from it was the planting window for everything he wanted to carry the family through winter. The crop I am talking about has a maturation window of about 95 days. Your first frost arrives in mid-November. Counting back 95 days lands you squarely in early August. You are not racing the frost. You are using the frost as a deadline, and that deadline is exactly what forces the plant to stop making foliage and start concentrating its energy into fruit. My grandfather had a name for it in our family. He called it the steady crop, not the fast crop, not the easy crop, the one that was still sitting on the shelf in February when everything else was gone. I will come back to why that matters in a few minutes. Now, the crop itself, and most Western gardeners have already met this plant and walked past it without knowing what it was. The crop is Kabocha. Kabocha is the Japanese word for a family of hard-shelled winter squash, in plain English, Japanese pumpkin. But Kabocha is not a decorative gourd, and it is not a grocery store pumpkin bred for shelf appearance. It is a dense, dark-skinned, sweet-fleshed squash that was selected by Japanese farming families over generations for one specific quality: the ability to store at room temperature without refrigeration for 4 to 6 months after harvest. A standard butternut squash from the garden center will give you 6 weeks of storage. 8 if the skin cured well. Honestly, just skip it. A properly grown and properly harvested kabocha will sit on a cool, dry shelf from October through April without any intervention. That is the storage crop you want. That is the difference between a crop and a storage crop. If this is the kind of information you wish someone had told you years ago, that is what this channel is. One method, once a week, tested for 30 years before I ever say it out loud. Nothing sold to you. Subscribe if you want the next one. My wife Yuki grew up with kabocha in the kitchen. Her mother used it from autumn through late spring. Roasted, simmered, folded into rice. Yuki keeps 2 or 3 on the counter from October onward. I have learned not to come in from the garden and set anything on top of them. Now, 3 reasons August is the only window that works, and the first one will surprise you. The first reason is pest avoidance. The squash vine borer, a moth larva that tunnels into the base of squash stems and kills vines from the inside, completes its primary flight cycle by mid to late July. An August-planted vine misses that window entirely. The larvae that would have destroyed a June planting are already gone. You are not spraying for them. You are not monitoring for them. You are simply not there when they are looking. The second reason is that late summer soil is warm, but the nights are beginning to cool. Kabocha germinates quickly in warm soil, 7 to 10 days to emergence, but it matures without the sustained high humidity that drives powdery mildew, a surface fungus that cost yield and storage quality. The September nights do the work of protecting the plant for you. The third reason is the deadline effect I described earlier. A vine, given unlimited warm growing time, will spread without discipline, 10 to 15 feet of foliage chasing sun with no urgency toward fruit. The approaching frost date disciplines the plant. It is not a metaphor. The vine genuinely redirects energy once day length shortens. You get fruit that is dense, properly sugared, and ready to cure. Now, the three growing requirements, and the one that most gardeners ignore, is also the one that determines whether your crop stores for 2 months or 6. Kabocha needs 6 to 8 hours of direct sunlight daily, not filtered light, not morning light with afternoon shade. Direct sun. A vine planted in a spot that receives 5 hours will set fruit, but the flesh will be watery and pale, and the sugars will not develop. That squash will not store past 8 weeks. The vine will spread 10 to 15 feet from the base. Most gardeners underestimate this and plant 2 vines in the space of 1, then wonder why they are seeing mildew by mid-October. Give each plant 15 feet of run. If space is genuinely limited, train the vine vertically up a sturdy trellis. Kabocha will climb if you guide it, and support the developing fruit with a fabric sling tied to the structure. About $8 of cotton netting from any garden supply handles this. Water at 1 to 2 inches per week through the growing period. But here is what most guides leave out. In the final 2 weeks before harvest, pull the water back to almost nothing. Dry finish hardens the skin. The technical term is suberization, the formation of a cork-like outer layer, and that hardened skin is what creates the months-long storage life. Water to the end and you get soft spots within 6 weeks. Dry finish, and the crop carries. Tell me this, have you grown winter squash before, and did anyone ever teach you how to test for storage readiness? Drop your answer in the comments. I read every single one. Now, the harvest test, and this is the single step that separates a 6-month storage crop from one that goes soft before Thanksgiving. This is the question that collapses most first-time kabocha harvests. The outside of the fruit does not change dramatically at ripeness. The vine does not wave a flag. There is no obvious visual marker the way there is with a tomato. My father, Hiroshi's, test was this. Press your thumbnail firmly into the rind near the widest point of the fruit. Not a light press. Firm pressure, held for 2 seconds. If your nail leaves a mark, any mark at all, the skin has not hardened. The sugars have not converted. The fruit is not ready. Come back in 5 to 7 days and test again. If the rind resists and your thumbnail skids off without leaving any impression, the skin is cured. The conversion is complete. That is the kabocha you want. Pick it then, cut the stem to 2 inches from the body, do not pull it loose, and bring it inside. That test has not failed me in 30 years. Not one of those steps is complicated. Not one of them costs you anything. Hard rind, clean stem, walk away. Now, the storage and the numbers, and the math here is the part that settles the question of whether this is worth your afternoon. A single August planting of 2 to 3 kabocha vines, managed correctly and harvested at full hardness, will yield 6 to 10 fruit per plant. A mature kabocha averages 3 to 5 pounds each. Set them in a single layer in a cool, dry room, a basement shelf, a pantry corner, an unheated mud room with space between each fruit so air moves around them. No bags, no stacking, no refrigeration. Store them between 50 and 60 degrees Fahrenheit. At that range, a properly cured kabocha will hold for 4 to 6 months. Planted in early August, harvested in late October or early November, that carries you through late April and into May with fruit that is still dense, still sweet, and still showing no soft spots. 1 afternoon of planting work, 1 afternoon of harvest, shelf food for 6 months at a total seed cost of about $4 for a packet of heritage kabocha seed. When your neighbors put their tools away in August and call the season finished, you know better now. Here is what I want you to do this week. Find your local first frost date. Your nearest agricultural extension office posts it. and it is free. Count back 95 days. That is your planting window. Source Kabocha seed from a Japanese market or a heritage seed supplier, not from a grocery store squash, which has been bred for appearance and not for storage. Mark your calendar for the fingernail test at day 88. One crop, food until May. The right crops carry you. The expensive ones just keep you buying. That is the principle this channel is built on. Next time, I am going to show you the Japanese method for building a deep winter cold frame from materials most households already have. No lumber order, no special hardware.